right. Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm so happy that you're here. My name is Kim Baljet, and I am a Director of Educational Technology for a charter district called iLEAD. I work for the kind of like a district office position for educational technology. A little bit about myself. I was a classroom teacher for over 20 years, primarily in third grade and all the way up to middle school. I've always been really techie. And I did a lot of teacher training and teacher mentorship. So it kind of led me, down this path to finding a place at probably one of the best places I've ever, actually the best place I've ever worked, which is iLEAD. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So today we're going to talk about AI, but we're going to talk about it in the sense of how we can use AI to create project-based learning lessons. And then also integrating this approach of design thinking. And we're going to go into what that means in a bit. All right. So here's our table of contents. I won't bore you by reading all of it, but I just want you to know that at the bottom there's a thing that says Your Heroes Toolkit. There will be a link there, or there is a link there that you can access all of the templates and the examples that I'm going to go over today. All right, so here's our call to action, kind of a brief overview. Our mission, of course, is to transform our classrooms into hubs of innovation and student agency. We want it to be have design, authentic, engaging learners, and we want to use our project-based learning, our PBL, I'll be talking about it like that, and design thinking. And then of course, we're going to leverage AI because it's a powerful tool. And you're going to become a hero at designing these AI enhanced project-based learning. All right, so let's just we have a common vocabulary. Let's talk about what project-based learning is. Basically, it's an engaging, rigorous, and meaningful learning experience through extended inquiry, right? So starting with a question, it focuses on the process, right? The different iterations, the thinking throughout. There's some key elements, especially at iLEAD that we implement. We have driving question. It has to be authentic question. Our learners, our students have voice and choice. It has to be something that's sustained. So over the course of a few weeks to a semester. And then they have to be able to reflect on their learning and have something of a public product at the end. And then we usually, whether it's to a community partner or to their class or to their parents, we have some sort of presentation for learning. And yes, you're probably thinking, even our kindergartners? Yes, even our kindergartners do this. And so here you'll see our project-based learning wheel that I put here for reference that you could go back and look to see what each of these stages look like for us. All right. And then what is design thinking? So design thinking is like a human-centered approach to problem solving. So it's really looking at a problem and empathizing with it. And then we define the problem, and then we come up with ideas on how to fix the problem, and then we land on deciding a prototype to fix the problem, like a first draft. We test and retest, and then the cycle can kind of continue, right? It really fosters, we have felt, empathy and creativity, and of course encourages improvement. So here's another graphic organizer that I put in here for you to look back at to really understand that it's not necessarily a linear process, but it can be quite circular. So we really start with empathy. You probably have heard that term before, but probably not in the context of designing lessons. So stay tuned. All right, so for synergy, this is how these two frameworks basically combine to make some powerful learning opportunities and authentic learning opportunities. So understanding your students, you have to really be able to understand them. So our goal in this stage is to deeply understand our students' needs, and we want to think about PBL at this stage, it has to be authentic. It has to empower their voice and choice. If they don't care about climate change, we're not going to force them to do a project on climate change. We're going to, of course, teach the standards that they have to and the competencies that they have to learn through each grade level, but they get the voice and choice for thinking about how they're going to apply those standards. So I came up with an example. I spent a lot of my time in sixth grade. So sixth grade ancient history. And so here's an example of how the empathy stage phase would look in our ancient innovations example. So students explore their own experiences with modern tech. They simulate ancient challenges. So I would give them things like limited tools, right, to create maybe a pyramid or to create a writing tablet out of clay, like giving so that they can have empathy for those ancient innovators, right? And then how can I use AI to enhance that? Well, I can use that to support empathy, but not to replace the interaction. And here are some tools that I use. So one of my favorite ones is the Forms app here. And I'm sure you've heard of things like SurveyMonkey and Google Forms, but the Forms app, you can put in a question or a topic and we will come up with ideas for you. You can quickly analyze your students' interests with these surveys, okay? And it's AI based, right? So you put something in and it gives you some options. Now, like I tell my teachers, we think of AI in the 80-20 rule. Let AI do 80% of the work, and then you, as the human, you humanize it 20%, right? So it's a good little formula to have. Then you can use FigJam, which is one of my favorite concept mapping ideas, for them to take their knowledge and then kind of map it out, right? Put it together. This is, like that whole brainstorming phase, right? And then one of my other favorite things to do is do VR. VR can actually be cheap and easy with Google Cardboard if you don't have the funds at your school site. And they have so much out there. So Google has embedded their Google Expeditions into Google Arts and Culture. So what I would do is I would take them to these pyramids and they would be able to see and be there.
Kindergarten is acceptable supervised.
Oh, I'm getting a little feedback from something. But it's not just Google Arts and Culture. There's also other options out there. There's a place called Virtually There, and YouTube also has a VR channel. So this is your opportunity to really just immerse your students into different perspectives. And that's one way to use AI to do that. Okay, and I have included those links in there in the presentation. All right. Our phase 2 of the design process, we're designing the heroic challenge. We want to define the problem, right? We want to create a clear, compelling problem statement based on empathy. And it leads to our driving question that's going to drive the entire project. Now at iLEAD, as we get older, in our older grades, we really want to force them to come up with their own driving question. In our younger grades, we're doing a lot of scaffolding, and we might have one overarching driving question while they're, learning about the PBL process. So here I have an example for my ancient innovations example. How did ancient innovations and scientific discoveries shape the development of civilizations and continue to influence our world today? So I'm sure if you notice that driving question, it really connects lots of disciplines, right? We can see history, science, math, writing, all of that is embedded underneath this deep dive investigation that's going towards a solution or towards a product, okay? So using AI, that sounds like a lot of work, right? But using AI, we can help tailor to refine this driving question, especially in that process with the older ones. So I'm sure you've heard of some of these AI generators before, but they're the best at helping with this stage of the design process. So we have like ChatGPT and Google Gemini, right? Where they can create variations of your driving question. So I would go into it, put in some give me some driving questions, have the learners do this, the students do this. Give me some driving questions about animal adaptations. Give me some driving questions for a unit on ancient civilizations, and have the students start creating and generating and curating a list that interests them. Okay. Really help them refine it. All right. And then we have different AI tools like AI research assistants like Perplexity and iLEAD. And then at this stage, we're going to focus the AI into just really opening and casting a wide net, right? We want to broaden our possibilities and align the challenges. But really, truly, as an educator, we want to make sure that they're still keeping in line with the overall objective. Okay. And I read that already for you. All right. And then on our next step, we have of the design process, we have ideate. These are like coming up with ideas. What tools can I use to brainstorm? What are some AI super tools for that? So at this stage, our goal is to generate a wide range of creative solutions and approaches and tools, encourage divergent thinking. So we have that driving question up there on the wall. And this is the time to start thinking about all the tools that we can use to answer that driving question. Obviously, this is a project, so it's going to have sustained inquiry. And then here in my ancient innovations example, we're doing brainstorming about pyramids. And what does that entail? Oh, I'm going to need to know geometry. Oh, I might need to understand engineering. Oh, else will I need to know? I'll need to know how, if I want to build a model, how am I going to represent it? Is it going to be a 2D model or a 3D model like you see here on the screen that I created through this Meshi app? So this is the time that you start thinking about what your learners are gearing towards and kind of throwing out all the different tools for them that they can use. All right. And then we're going to talk about those super tools now. All right. So here, I just put off a list here of some super tools. There's a whole bunch. So these ones are all just the AI research ones, like Google Scholar and iLEAD, and I have them all linked for you. So you don't have to memorize this. You'll go back and look at it. So these are the ones that help them with the 2D stuff, all of the reading and the writing that they have to understand. So these are good tools for AI for that. And then once they get some of their ideas on paper, what tools can they use, AI tools can they use to help with the writing and the crafting the writing piece? So we have tools that you might have heard of before, but some of you might not have. So like Grammarly or Quillbot, okay, you might have heard of those before. But when you start teaching, our middle school and high school learners how to cite their sources, and if you're in your programs and you have to create a bibliography, using AI, MyBib and ZoteraBib, those are some really powerful tools to help you create a citation generator. And you say, oh gosh, can students really do that? Yes. I when I had a 5-6 combo class, I used MyBib and I taught them how to cite sources, MLA, and it was pretty darn amazing. Next type that we have are maybe those visualization models. This is like what's really come to the forefront of AI now, because we've made such cool advances. So down here, you see this little, it looks like a well, right? Or a model of something, right? So Egyptians, they would get the water, take the water out of, pump the water out of their wells for their large civilizations areas. So using this model from Sloyd AI, you can design something similar in a 3D AI way. So there's lots of different tools for that. Sloyd's really great. You saw an example of Meshi AI back there. And I always try to include tools that have a pretty robust free part to their program, right? Because I know as teachers, we don't always have the money, and our school principals might not always give us all of the money that we want to implement all these new things. So having that option to have the free version is great. So moving on to our design phase. So our prototype. So we're going to be building in this part. Here our goal is to create a plan. All right. So now we've done a lot of just inquiry. We're gathering information. Now it's really time to get them to focus in on one driving question, launch it with sustained inquiry. And this is where you're teaching those lessons, right? And you're providing those assessments with all of that background stuff that you want them to know about their ancient history and their geometry and their writing persuasive essays and all of the things that you may be teaching them there, you're required to teach, but you're also including this unit together. All right, so planning is crucial. And then a performance task, of course, and then using AI to create personalized pathways for differentiated resources. So this is where AI really shines, in my opinion. So gone are the days that we would have to go out and find, oh, I have a student reading at a second grade level in my class, true story, and another one reading at a 12th grade level in my class. How am I going to be able to get them resources that are on the same topic? Well, there's so many amazing platforms now that can use this. And a lot of these platforms have really great free, robust AI capabilities. So a lot of the AI lesson planning assistants like Magic School AI and Diffit. So you can draft like your informational text. You can take something from the internet that's a PDF, maybe it's college level about Egyptian geometry, and you can put it into these AI and say, create this and make it a sixth grade reading level. And within seconds, it can do it for you. It's amazing, right? And these two specific ones that I like, they're really trained. That's what we call it in the education technology world. They're really trained to know what learners need. Okay. And then you can use some of your adaptive technology, your computer adaptive technology for maybe some of those gaps in the whole. So maybe you have learners that are really well advanced in geometry and some that are still learning to add and subtract multi-digit numbers. Well, of course, you're not going to leave those ones behind, right? So you need to make sure that you're still providing additional support. So AI has great possibilities. Khan Academy has its own little AI called Conmingo. IXL has AI components where you can really personalize what the learner needs. And in my opinion, Magic School is the best. It gets the gold star from me because it has so many tools. And I hope you were able to look at that example there of all the different tools that Magic School has. And they don't pay me. I'm just a really happy customer. Okay. So phase 5, we're testing and retesting and refining. So we're gathering feedback from our tests and we're working to make improvements. And then your role as the teacher is to facilitate that growth and that thinking and to really like encourage them at this point. Like, it's okay. Like mistakes, we would say this in my class all the time. Mistakes make your brains grow, I think it was Henry Ford said something to the effect of, I didn't succeed once, I failed 545 times, right? So it's something along that line where, out of a lot of failure comes success and revising. So that growth mindset's really important. And here at this stage in my ancient civilization example, we would have things like observations and drafts and peer feedback. You could use your rubrics at this time to give them a little bit more of that formal, like, oh, this is how you're doing in your writing and your math. And then the hot sauce here, the AI enhancement, is to help analyze that feedback and really to give more to your learners, your students. So one of my favorite ones that does a lot of personalized learning is Flint AI. And I should say this, AI analysis supports teacher judgment and direct student feedback. It doesn't replace it. Prioritize your quality feedback and your conversation. right? So there's two that I really love. Magic School AI has a really great feature, in my opinion, for writing. You can upload a rubric, you can upload your student work, and within, before you can say abracadabra comes out really great feedback. And we're not talking about what they did wrong. It's like real feedback where it's like, this part is strong. This part needs work in this. Support your first sentence with a citation. Like really great feedback. Flint AI also does a really great job of guiding learners, especially with math and foreign language. It's really strong in foreign language as well. Um, with helping learners come to the conclusions and supporting their learning, guiding that guided release of responsibility, right? So I'm just telling them the answer. It really helps guide them to get them to that aha stage. So I love both of those platforms for that purpose. Okay, so we're kind of towards the end. I told you I was going to include a toolkit. So you have a toolkit here, you have a toolkit at the beginning of the session as well. And then I included a come teach with us little slide here if you were interested. And we'll take it out for questions or comments. I know we have, lots of different um, fields that are coming to this platform. So let's open it up for questions. That's it. You have me. You can ask me any tech question you want.
Hey, Kimberly, we did have one question earlier from Vanessa Chavez, and she said, is there age or grade recommendation for VR?
Oh, yes. Um, I've even had 5-year-olds using it. It's been pretty amazing. Okay, and it really truly is about the content, right? So, you're going to visit a farm, right? You can do a VR to a farm and where just think of all the different places you want to take your learners on a field trip. You can use VR to do that. Well, my contact is here. I'm very open to answering your questions if they come up afterwards. I'm really passionate about how AI is really changing our field. Again, over 20 years in the teaching business, and I can tell you that I spent many, many tears and many sleepless nights trying to finish all my report cards and grading and all the things. And we have such great tools now that really could help our teachers not burn out and help our teachers really just be impactful and do what we always want to do, right? Which is making those connections to our kids and being that hero to them.
Kimberly, there was a question in the chat, and I'm a special educator as well. And I was like, oh, that's a good question. What do you recommend that can be used to provide inclusive instruction?
Oh, so I can actually, if you shoot me an email, I can send you a list that I actually send. But Diffit is really, really actually Magic School and Diffit
Okay.
have some amazing differentiated tools that they use. We even have them for writing goals for IEPs.
Okay.
For I'm sure you've heard those things. Um, they're trained, but just imagine you have all your sped classes, right, in college
Mhm.
and all of the textbooks. They've inputted all of that information. You're like, oh, I
Okay.
remember that strategy. What can I do for this friend? I can't remember and then you just put it in there and it's like, I don't have to remember all the things anymore because I can just ask my friend Flint or I can ask my friend Magic School and it'll tell me. So, yes.
Okay. So you said Flint?
Well, Diffit's great. Flint's okay.
Okay. So Divot's best.
And then Magic School AI.
Okay. Okay. And then I had another question. You probably use one of these AI tools, but what about for teaching writing specifically? I think that's where my kids struggle the most, but
Yeah.
I don't want them to use AI to like write it for them. I want them to have something to like prompt them like, okay, now you have to write a topic sentence. I mean, we do a lot of color coding and a lot of writing, but I was like, is there like a program or something that can kind of like help guide them? I know one of my moms was saying something like, they have like different bots or like different things, but I didn't know if there's something that I could easily implement into my classes.
Awesome. So, yes, so there's three things that came to mind right away when you were talking to me. So the first one is that I like how you start with really just having them understand the process first before they go to AI. I think that's really important. The research that's coming out now is actually sharing that our kids are actually have the ability to become better communicators when they use chatbots. Because they're learning like when they're using such overgeneralized terms, they're not getting the feedback that they want, right? So really teaching them prompt engineering. So there's lots of different, I would just go to Google. Google has some good ones, or Common Sense Education has some good, what grade level do you teach again?
Well, I teach TK through fifth grade, so I'm an RSP teacher. So, I mean, we use the general education curriculum, but I really want them to understand the format because even then, when we're telling our kids to write a 5-paragraph essay, they're still giving us one paragraph, and they're like, "Oh, I did it," and I'm like, "No, this isn't quite what I'm looking for." I know my kids are have special needs, but at the same time, I'm like, no, my expectation is still the same as everyone else. Like, you guys can do this, you know? So.
And so the tutors, the chatbot tutors that you're talking about, um, for your grade level, I would definitely go with Magic School,
Okay.
AI. If you were more high school, I would probably go Flint. But they really do. They don't just tell them how to do it. They give them examples. They do a lot of reteach, and then they pull it out of them. And so you can train a chatbot. You can basically say using we'll say third grade. So using narrative writing, Common Core State Standard narrative writing, and you would upload the standards to them, and then maybe you would upload the materials that you're using in the class, right? And then just say, help teach my students how to write a introductory paragraph. And then
Oh, okay. Okay.
and then basically you create like a little room and you assign them in that room, and then you can see how they're interacting with it.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So if they use any potty language, you'd be like, okay,
Okay. All right.
I,
Awesome.
I
Thank
see you use
you.
potty language. You can't do that. This is a real thing you actually have to do. So but it's good. It really is helpful, and I've used it with my own children. Yes, Sarah, I see your hand.
Hi, ladies. Thank you so much for all the information. It's very helpful. I'm not a teacher yet, but it's getting me to think as a teacher as well. But I was wondering if we're going to be able to get the PowerPoint that you presented.
Yes. So Emily and Teach LA, they have requested all of the materials, and it should be linked, or they'll send it out afterwards. Emily, can you speak to that? Because I know I uploaded it.
Yes, so we always record our sessions, and in the recording links, we'll always link any kind of presentations or websites that they share. So you will see those. Once everything is posted, we will email all attendants that everything is up, so you guys can go and review the videos again or access any links that were shared.
Okay. Thank you so much.
And make sure to click through, because I've included all the links, all the fun stuff.
And then Kimberly, you do have another question in the chat from
Okay.
Rolando, my apologies. It says, because special ed students are accustomed to routines, what would you recommend implemented to use for the whole class that you have noticed works? I see that special ed students are given tablets when the rest of the class is learning a subject. I am curious as to what you would recommend to be used to teach the class as a whole. I am not a teacher yet, but I am a volunteer, and I see technology used to calm the situation instead of implementing tech to teach the overall class.
Got it. So I guess I would start with a couple follow-up questions. So if the student is able to access the main lesson, right, they should be engaging with the lesson and the teacher, right? Because nothing replaces a teacher. But obviously, as we know, like we can use our computer adaptive technology to support or reinforce or reteach some of the necessary skills that we need. A lot of times our friends who are in special ed, they struggle with task completion. We know it doesn't, they don't even have to be designated in special ed. A lot of our friends just really need help with task completion. So one of my, I'm trying to remember the name of it. He looks like Yoda. I'm gonna try to move my, I have 3 screens going, so I'm gonna try to look over here. I have a list, and it basically it breaks down a task into manageable chunks, and it gives them step-by-step processes. So a lot of times our learners, they might look at some directions and just go, wow, that's way too much for me to understand. How do I even tackle that? So that's been very helpful that we have found for our friends who are neurodivergent. So let's see. Something like grok or grunk or something kind of, can't remember off the top of my head. Are there any other questions? Oh, Rolando, while you have your hand raised, let me see if I can find it, and I can maybe look in my drive while I talk to you. Any other questions?
Yes, this is Rolando. So the reason I asked the question that I asked is, again, I'm not a teacher yet. I'm a volunteer, and I've been volunteering for a few years now, tutoring and in any capacity as a parent.
Mm-hmm.
But and understanding, like with the courses that I've taken, I know that there's an ideology, and it's I really love the courses that I've taken, and even these meetings on Zoom have been very eye-opening and very informative. But one thing that I've noticed is the reality, at least at the district that I've helped out in, the teachers always seem overwhelmed. I know that a lot of them receive certification to teach special needs students and general ed in the same class. And I am aware of the business side of education and the reasons why that is. But I do see a struggle and a separation in how technology is used. I love everything that you're saying. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that it would be great if this information was made available to the school districts to actually practice a lot of what you're saying, because it makes sense. But the reason I asked the question that I did is um, I've noticed that obviously there's a lack of support for educators, and we have to kind of go into the system understanding that in a perfect world we have assistance. In the real world, we're overwhelmed, but we do this because we love it.
Yes.
And the reason I asked a specific question is if possibly there's any programs that you've seen um, that have been used where, and obviously everyone learns in a different way, regardless of if they're special needs or not. I always see it as everyone learns in a different way, regardless. But have you seen any specific programs, like you mentioned VR, that could be implemented that you see functions to a certain degree, because obviously, depending on the day, anyone that has a bad day would carry on into the classroom. But have you seen any programs or any curriculum that you've used that has shown more success than others? I don't know if I'm kind of making that clear, but just like any hints, because when I see it, uh, the teachers are tired, especially by the end of the day. So I do see that tablet being handed out almost to placate the student, but the student is engaged as I perceive it as an additional body. Um, I see that the student is engaged. Is just the student is having difficulties understanding something, and like any student, even ourselves, when we encounter an obstacle, sometimes we deviate from it and we create distraction.
Yes.
So that's why I was asking if there was anything specific that you've kind of seen, like VR or time to put on an informative video or something that you've seen that works.
Okay. So, you're probably not going to like the answer that I give you, but I'm going to tell you, the reality is that no technology is going to replace teacher expertise, right? So you can use the tools, but what your end goal, right, is to get them information or get them content that's at their level so that they don't balk at it right away, right? So that the content that they need is accessible and that is engaging to them, right? And so without knowing, every learner is different, every person is different, right? So if you're in a sixth grade class and your student is illiterate, obviously they're not going to want to track, right, what's going on. So you're going to maybe make a different decision. If the goal is to understand the, the reasons for exploration, then they don't have to read the text, you're going to give additional resources. So that's where our AI can really help, in the sense where you can ask AI, hey, give me ideas on how to access, this content for somebody who's reading at a first grade level, who's maybe diagnosed with autism. And they actually have really good suggestions, but there's not really a program that will supplant or replace the knowledge of a teacher. So it really comes to really the skill of the teacher.
So would you recommend that the teacher actually ahead of time really deep dive into some of this technology to kind of prepare like you do a lesson plan?
Oh, absolutely. So I don't even know why people would be doing lesson plans anymore. Back in the day when I had to write all these lesson plans, like, gosh, the lesson plans that AI can do for me now are like way better. Like, I write curriculum and I'm talking with AI all day long to write high school courses. So absolutely. And then you can just say, and then how can I access, my neurodivergent learner? How can I make this accessible to somebody who's reading at a first grade level? And they'll give great examples, right? And then as a resource teacher or as a special education teacher, that's a great way to, work together. My colleague likes to call it a marriage, right? You're really working with your classroom teacher and your resource teacher. And if you guys are really working harmoniously together, you're preparing the things that those learners need to make sure that they're getting to that learning objective, right? So gosh, you're in a great space, Rolando. If you're going into special education in the age of AI, there's just so much out there.
It's refreshing to hear you say that, because I've so I've been doing engineering for 15 years. I'm 48 years old, and through COVID, I had more time to volunteer in my daughter's school. I've been involved from elementary to junior high, now high school. And I realized that I'm in the wrong field. I started taking classes to work with the little ones. And I've noticed that students that are, as a volunteer, students that are special needs and English learners tend to gravitate towards me. So I kind of, I just use my instincts as a parent to work with them to support the teacher. But I know realistically, teachers don't have that support. But it's refreshing to hear you, um, it telling us use this technology, because currently in a lot of school districts and in colleges, they're like, don't use it. But to me, being 48 years old, I remember encyclopedias, I remember Cliff Notes, I remember a thesaurus, and AI seems to me like it's that same variation.
Oh yeah.
So I love that you're telling us, hey, use this, do this, because I as a future educator would want to implement the usage of AI, but have the students reference it, provide that information, and see how they think when they reinterpret it. Because like I always tell my daughter, I want you to get the best grades possible, but more than anything, I want you to learn and master the subject, even if it's at a small degree, because that stays with you forever, as opposed to just studying to pass a test. So it's refreshing to hear you say, hey, use this, rely on it. It's helpful. It's the future, and we need to use it. So thank you for that.
You're very welcome. And just like any new technology, just like any art, because teaching, people will tell you it's a craft. It is a craft. You're going to have great days where you make masterpieces, and other days you're like, what did I paint? And the next day you just brush your brush off and go again. It's going to be great. You're going into the best profession in the world, Rolando, I promise you. Any other questions? I found that Goblin tool, and then I shared another document. I have tons of AI trainings and whatnot, basic to advanced. So we're really in the charter district trying to really embrace AI. And I hope you do too, because I don't want you to burn out. I want you to keep going and keep making magic.
Your Kimberly, what's your email again? Is it just on the slides, or do
It is.
you?
I'll put it in here for you.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome, Stephanie, and thank you for everything you do every day.
I love what I do. That's
Good.
for sure.
All right. Thank you, everyone. I think that's kind of a natural done, unless anybody has any other questions. All right. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.